I believe every human being has the potential to create a life that is based on happiness, love, fulfillment, connection, and purpose. I believe you can do this regardless of your circumstances, upbringing, and or environment. And I believe you can help others get there as well. My story began about 15 years ago when I moved to a completely alien culture, a culture that was so different, a way of life that was so different from mine at a very young age. When I moved to Canada at that age, it didn't take long for me to realize that so many things that I had held to be true universally, they started to come crashing down. They started to prove to be just true in my environment. And to top that off, I started to notice so many societal and social contradictions in this new environment that I came into. And if that wasn't enough, I started to notice that most people hadn't really even thought about this. They had accepted a way of life that they thought to be normal, a way of life that wasn't based on love, that wasn't based on connection, that wasn't based on happiness. It was a way of life that was just redundant. It was a way of life that just happened every day to them. But nobody seemed to have a solution or an answer to why that was. The only answer that I could get from people was, that's just the way things are. And that's how people are. But obviously that was not true. After seeing so much contradiction around me at that age, based on my understanding of the world, and based on being exposed to a new way of life and bringing another perspective into this world, naturally I went into a state where I completely started to disconnect from myself, from my environment, from my relationships. I started to run away from every aspect of my reality for a few years. About a decade ago, I started to think and I started to feel that there has to be a universal approach to life, a universal approach to happiness, a universal approach to fulfillment, to connection, to love, and to purpose in life. There had to be that. Otherwise, how does the universe operate? How does our cosmos and the world operate, the natural world operate? So I started to ask questions, and the first thing I realized that I had to put aside everything that I knew to be true. And I had to put aside everything that I saw around me to be true as well. And I had to start questioning everything and start to come up with answers and start to research and study and get training as to what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be happy, to be fulfilled, to be purposeful? And in the process, I came across 3 concepts. And these 3 concepts are peace, freedom, and possibilities. When I started studying happiness, when I started studying different ways of life, when I started studying the collective knowledge of humanity as much as I could, when I started observing the world around me and the people who had achieved success in their life not just based on resources, but also within themselves, where they had happiness and joy within themselves. They had purpose, they had fulfillment, they had deeper connections, and they had a purpose in life. I started to notice this pattern that it had to be these 3 things. It had to be these 3 things that created those results in their life. And when I started to adapt that part of my life, then I saw major shifts and changes in my life, in my personal life, with my connection with myself, with the world, with the invisible world, with the universe at large. Started to notice my relationships changing. I started to notice more opportunities coming my way. I started to notice my reality changing. So why is it? Well, it could take me a whole video to explain this, but I'll give you a brief introduction of why these three ideas are so important in my life, and it has been so important in the lives of so many people that have achieved these things. So I'll start with peace. Now, when I say peace, what I mean is that peace within ourselves. If you can imagine an ocean with the waves on top, but then that depth, the depth of that ocean. The problem with most people is that they live on that surface. They're not connected to that depth that's within themselves. That depth that is one with everything in the universe, everything in the world, that's connected to everything that you see around yourself. When you become connected to yourself, connected to the world, to universe, to God, to oneness, whatever your idea of self is, or idea of higher self is, when you become at one with it, when you become at peace with it, when you start to accept yourself, when you start to make peace with your environment, external environment, then what you realize is that you get this strength, just like the ocean. No matter what waves are on top, no matter how much turbulence is on top of the waves, the depth of the ocean is calm, and you start to begin to realize this strength and power within yourself, that no matter what happens on the external, at the surface, you always have that peace, joy, and bliss within yourself. And then the next one is freedom. And the popular culture that we're in, most people are obsessed with freedom, but we think of freedom on the external. But what we don't realize is that no matter how much freedom we have in our environment, if we're not free within, if our mind we're slave to our mind, to our ego, we will never be able to feel free. You could have everything in the world. You could be allowed to go anywhere in the world. You could be not bound to anything, but you'll never feel free unless you let go of the pain within yourself, unless you let go of the burdens that have become a part of you, and along with it the habits that you've created, the negative patterns that you've created in your thoughts and in your behavior. And unless you create that freedom within, you will never be able to see that freedom on the external world. But once you do, then no matter what your circumstances are, no matter what the challenges in your life are, no matter what you're faced with, you'll always see yourself to be free, and you'll always find a way to create that freedom in your external environment. So then when you combine peace and freedom within ourselves, what happens is that you start to envision a different world, a different reality. You start to see possibilities, and this is what you find with the people who are visionaries, who see a future that others can't see. Why is that? Because they have connected to a part of themselves that's bigger than the external environment, that's bigger than their environment on the outside. So when they do that, they see possibilities while others see limitations. So that's why I realized that when we create these integrate these three ideas as part of us, the three ideas being your peace that you have within yourself, the freedom that you have within yourself, and the possibilities that you can envision in this reality, then you create a life that's based on happiness, that's based on joy, fulfillment, deeper connections, and purpose. And when I started to create a life based on these ideas, not only was I able to change my life dramatically, I was able to help and inspire and empower others to do the same thing. I believe we live in an interdependent universe, in an interdependent cosmos, where we not only rely on each other for survival, but also for growth. Having said that, I believe it's part of my contribution, my purpose, and my job to help you find your purpose, to help you find the life that you truly want. And before I go, I want to share this one idea that I've observed in people. Over the years, observing, studying, and coaching so many people, I've found that there are generally two types of people. The first type are the ones who find excuses for their pain and suffering and find a way to blame it on something in their external environment. And they continue to be the victim of their environment. And the other type is the type of people who will acknowledge their pain, who will acknowledge what the challenges are in their life, but who will make a decision, create an intention in their life to move towards creating a better life for themselves. My question to you is, which one are you?